Okay, next slide. Thank you, Nicole. Sorry about that. Okay, so for anyone who just joined, welcome to the Public Landscaper Workgroup meeting on small off-road engines. I'm again Navashni Mitchell. I go by Ash, an air pollution specialist at the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. I'm joined today by several of my colleagues, Manisha Singh, Chief of the Quality Management Branch, Christopher Dilbeck, Manager of the Testing and Certification Section, who is my supervisor, Jenna Ostad, Catherine Garrison, Michelle Dunlop, and Nicole Lambenisio, who are in the Testing and Certification Section, and Joshua Lowell and AJ Edwards from the Mobile Source Control Division. We will start with a recap from the last meeting, hear landscaper experiences with zero-emission equipment, hear about smart charging technology, and have a panel discussion on incentives. We also have time for questions and answers. Please feel free to put questions in the Q&A. We will answer questions from the Q&A and call on those with raised hands, as well as those submitted via registration after the presentations. Next slide, please. Before we begin, let's have a quick recap from our previous meetings. We've received a handful of nominations for businesses to serve on the panel of landscapers and have confirmed with those businesses that they are willing to serve on the panel. Some of those panelists shared in previous meetings. Our panelists will participate in the landscaper experiences with zero-emission equipment and incentive section. We are still accepting nominations. You may review our presentations from previous meetings on what we envision for the panel. We encourage landscapers to let their legislators know that they want more incentive funding. We received questions regarding incentives for larger businesses. These are available in some air districts through the Carl Moyer program. Representatives from several air districts are here today participating in the incentive question and answer panel. We have received some questions about electrical infrastructure and the potential need for upgrades to electrical service. A strategy to reduce the need for additional electrical circuits is the use of power management systems. Multiple chargers can be plugged into these devices, and one can cycle through charging several batteries unattended, with charging stretched out over a course of time. We have also invited Electric Sheep Robotics, who are the technology platform for OSO's self-driving mower, to speak on their technology. As a reminder, this work group meets 4 times a year. And let me just post this in the chat for where you can find previous recordings. Okay, sorry, I have this slide. So the SOAR rules apply to manufacturers for producing new engines, which need certification in order to be sold in California. The rules do not have requirements for equipment owners, so equipment may continue to be used and repaired, and certified equipment in stores may continue to be sold. I'm going to post some links in the chat for more information on that. Okay. So CARB has received authorization from the US EPA regarding the SOAR regulations. This authorization decision was published in the Federal Register on January 6, 2025. CARB will focus on outreach and education in 2025. Full implementation of the SOAR regulations will begin with model year 2026. CARB will issue executive orders for 2025 engines that meet the 2023 standards. CARB issued a Manufacturer's Advisory Correspondence, or MAC, in January 2025 that includes more information about the implementation of the rules. Dealers and other retailers may continue to sell certified equipment from 2024 and 2025. There is no requirement to stop selling certified equipment. You may find additional information about the updated rules in our presentations from previous workgroup meetings and in other documents on the CARB website. I'm going to post the MAC in the chat here. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so we have asked landscapers on the panel to share their experience with zero emissions equipment and incentive programs. We've invited Eric Diaz of Alpine Land Landscape and Blake Meal of Garden View Landscape here today to speak. And let me find them. I am not finding Blake or Eric. So maybe, oh, I will slow down. I'm sorry. So maybe we'll go to the next slide and come back to this if I see Blake and Eric in the attendee list. And we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this poll. So hello, everyone. Please answer this short poll that will show the audience composition. I'm going to launch the poll now. Okay. Okay, we'll give it a minute more. Okay, and I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results now. So that's our breakdown of the attendees. I'm just going to leave it on there for a few more seconds. I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay. Next, I'm sorry, slide, please. Okay, next we have power management products. And power management products can charge multiple batteries unattended. Several such products are shown in the slide. Next slide, please. Okay, and we have Nag Murthy, who is the founder and CEO of Electric Sheep Robotics. So OSO's self-driving lawnmower uses the technology platform of Electric Sheep Robotics. We've invited the founder and CEO of Electric Sheep Robotics here today. So is Nug here?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Why don't we give control over to you to share your slides, Nug?
Sounds good. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. It's showing up now.
Okay, awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Nag. I am the founder and CEO of Electric Sheep Robotics. We basically are an autonomy company that is looking to automate all kinds of outdoor equipment, outdoor power equipment. So basically, the goal is to build a AI driver that can drive pretty much any outdoor power equipment out there over the coming years. We've started with lawnmowers, and for this, we partnered with Oso, who has a 21-inch electric mower out in the market. And so today, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about sort of what you can expect or how do you think about autonomy, or at least how we think about autonomy, and how do robot mowers work in general, when they have sort of AI at their core, and then, yeah, a little bit more about sort of the product itself and the technology. Before I do that, let's see, I'm going to just play a brief video. Let me know if it doesn't sort of show up here. So what this is essentially a 21-inch push mower that has an autonomy box attached to it. And so you can see the autonomy box over here on the back. And this is a regular 21-inch push mower that also makes. And what we do is we take control of the mower, much like a human would, and we basically make it stripe a yard. Now, what's unique about this approach is that it it uses AI at its core, and I can sort of go into what that means here in a bit. Um, Basically, what this is it's a machine that sort of sees the world around it using cameras. You can see cameras, four cameras around sort of the sides of this robot. It's also got a GPS unit. And it basically wakes up when you turn it on. It wakes up, it sees the world around it, it decides, okay, that's grass, that's the road, these are vehicles around me, and my job is to mow. And so off it goes. It basically just starts to mow without needing any more sort of instruction than that. And I can get into a little bit about how it does that here in a bit. Because we have AI and because we have a brain that's sort of controlling this machine in a way, using intelligence, you don't need to be teaching it a map or teaching it a boundary or any such thing that you would have to do sort of with more traditional robotics approaches. So you can just show up at any site, put it down, and just walk away. And it will wake up and it'll decide what to do based on how it's been trained. So I'm going to just stop here and then tell you a little bit about how we actually train this robot. It's kind of a cool thing. We built like this game simulator. So what we call Park World, which is essentially like a video game for the robot to basically learn in. And so the robot just, it's let loose in this sort of virtual world where it's going about sampling millions of like these virtual lawns. So we've generated lots of different virtual lawns like this with like various objects in it. Like, there's some dude doing yoga in the middle over there, and there's like, some dogs and cats and bushes and trees and all strewn about. And so we randomize this, and the robot just explores, and it just teaches itself over time. And so it logs like hours and hours of training in the cloud. And then that's how sort of the AI model sort of grows in sophistication. What this means for how these sort of AI robots see the world is that essentially when it wakes up, it sort of looks at the world and it says, that's a human being. You can see a real-time view of what's happening over here. There's a guy, it looks at a tree, and then it also can make out the edge of the lawn over here, and then things like drain covers. But it also ignores the leaves on the ground, as you can see, right? Because you don't want it tripping on leaves, but you do want it to know what a drain cover is, and so on and so forth. Um, so what makes an effective robot mower? This is something that, landscapers should be asking themselves as they go through sort of thinking about autonomy. One is you don't really need to be spending a lot of time doing setup for these machines. I'm not just talking about our machine, but in general, when you consider autonomy, one of the things you do want to look out for is you don't want to have, any time on setup or mapping or pre-preparation for a given site. You want that robot to just sort of live on your van or your truck or your trailer and tackle multiple sites on your mow route, just like a human would with a 21-inch push mower or a bigger mower. You want to be able to use it anywhere, not just open areas. So one of the fundamental limitations of robotics today is you can only do these big open areas, but with AI mowers and technology like the ones that we're exploring, we'll now be able to get it out into sort of more complex areas, complex mowing, close to trees, close to roads, and along medians and things like that. You also don't want it to have any supervision. You should just be able to put it down, walk away. And then one of the things that we've learned in deploying these kinds of products over the last few years is you want to think of automation as like a progressive journey, not like a 0 to 1 journey, much as you would want to think about electrification, I suppose, right? You don't want it to be extremely disruptive to your business, but you want to sort of layer in these changes over time as you sort of, transform your business. And then you want to realize some kind of an immediate ROI for the investment you're making in any kind of technology. Um, and then lastly, your technology the robotics should be such that you don't need to have any special instructions or any sort of special sort of training needed for your crew members. Because one of the things we've noticed in the landscaping industry is that, there's a lot of uh, churn in sort of the crew. So people come and go. So you can't you may train one person one week and only to have them leave 2 weeks from that, 2 weeks from then on. So you need like technology to be simple enough to be able to teach anyone to use a robot in under 10 seconds. And that's kind of like what AI gives you, which is, because it understands the world, you can just go up to a site, press the on button, point the robot in the direction you want it to stripe, and then just walk away. Um, and then, yeah, basically, it also sort of, because it understands the job at hand, you don't need to sort of do anything special like marking out a boundary or teaching it, here's like a sprinkler head or here's something else you shouldn't be going over. And keep in mind, this is a learning system, so it's not perfect. But as we deploy it more and more, it starts to learn more about the world and gets better and better. And then the other thing, I'll just wrap up here, but just really quickly, you also want technology to be able to sort of be dual operable in the sense that because it's occupying, space on your trailer or your van or your truck, you you don't want just autonomy, you also want some kind of dual operability. So in our machines, you can use them as manual mowers or sort of remote controlled mowers if you want to sort of drive them up moderate slopes and things like that. And then lastly, I will say that one of the biggest changes that is coming to this industry is this notion of data use and data gathering. So one advantage with autonomy, and I suspect with electrification as well, is is that you get a enormous amount of data for every site that you visit. And what that does is it sort of allows you to collect detailed analytics for your customers, for any HOA customer that you're serving, or for, let's say, a municipality. And you're able to basically generate like real detailed site reports about things like soil health or how much emissions you created or how many, something more prosaic or mundane, like how many yards you mowed, right? And all of that is being logged continuously by these machines, ours included. Um, and yeah, I will just sort of say that we've been doing this for a few years. We've deployed across a lot of different places across the country. And yeah, I'll just end this by saying if you wanted to chat about autonomy or just learn about sort of the technology and the industry in general, or partner sort of with us to learn more, I'm happy to sort of chat and tell you more about this. And thank you, Ash, for giving us a chance to present here. Yeah, and with that, I'll sort of stop my presentation.
Thank you, Nag. So now we'll we'll start sharing slides again and go to the next slide. Our next presenter, Milwaukee, could not make it today, so we'll go over to the next slide. And now we will take questions about the presentation from Electric Sheep Robotics. So I'm looking at the Q&A, and let me look at raised hands. So if folks have a question, please raise your hand if you want to speak it, or you can type your question in the Q&A and I'll read it and we can give Nag a chance to answer. Okay, so I see one question in the Q&A from Laura Carlos. She wants to know, how much does the electric sheep mower cost?
Uh, uh, I guess we can sort of take this offline because, we're not sort of talking about pricing
Yes,
information in this in this sort of presentation. This is more as an like intended to educate and sort of inform about the technology itself. But I'd be happy to take this offline. And Ash, I'm sure, can sort of connect us
yeah,
offline.
thank you, Nag, for reminding me. Yeah, this is educational and we're not going into pricing of the products here. Let me see the next question. So this is from Mitch Domingos, and he asks, how many acres an hour does it mow, and how does it know when the bag is full?
Yeah, so this is a mulching mower, and it does anywhere between half an acre to an acre per hour, depending on sort of conditions. So we don't have a bag. This just mulches, and it's more eco-friendly. It returns the clippings back to the ground.
Um, I've got Quiet Alliance. How do we reach Nag? And if you're okay, Nag, I can share some contact information
Yeah, certainly.
folks
Thank you.
after.
Yes.
Yeah, so for Quiet Alliance, I can share with you after. Next question is from Anonymous. Let me think about this one. We've got, can't you provide a range of how much this costs? Folks need to have an idea of what they are looking at. So since this is educational, where we're sharing the technology, I guess we can like talk about ranges.
Yeah, we can take this offline again. Let's just say, we'd be happy to sort of figure out sort of options that work for our customers, and we can take that offline. If you were to connect me, happy to sort of
Okay,
answer that directly. I'm looking at the questions as they come up. So,
okay.
how long does a full charge last? It lasts about 2 hours. This is a battery that can, yeah. So once you charge it up overnight, that battery lasts you 2 hours. To answer that question, yes. So we're not typically offering this as like a sort of most robotics, right? Again, sort of in the spirit of sort of information, a lot of robotics because and this is maybe how you'd want to think about robotics as well for all the landscapers in attendance, right? Maybe you don't want to think about this as like a capex purchase where you sort of just pay up front for a piece of technology. Given how quickly technology is evolving, right, in the space, sometimes I think it makes sense to think about purchasing equipment like this or any other robot or anything else from like an OpEx or a subscription on a subscription basis, because that way you get to enjoy the benefits of sort of the technology, whatever you're purchasing, but then you sort of don't have to take on the burden of like these technologies becoming obsolete, right? So you're not sort of stuck with sort of the last year's version of the technology. So from that point of view, I think subscription makes a lot of sense when you're thinking about pricing or when you think about purchasing technologies like this in general. That's at least that's our view as a company, but other companies they have different views on this. Again, with respect to price, since that's the last question here, I think we can take that offline if we can get connected.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nag. So no more questions in the Q&A. Let me look if there's any raised hands, and I don't see any. So since there's no more questions that I see, maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay, so we have invited representatives on our incentives panel to answer questions. Panel members include Air District representatives and Carl Moyer program representatives. Excuse me. Please raise your hand using the raise your hand feature or type your questions in the Q&A, and we will take questions one at a time in the order they are received, taking turns on the spoken and the Q&A questions. But we'll first go through the questions received through the registration. Next slide, please. Okay, so our panel members are from the California Air Resources Board. We have Joshua Lowell, who's an air pollution specialist and who works in the Carl Moyer program. And then we have AJ Edwards, who's an air resources engineer who works on the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project, or CORE. Next, we have from the air districts, we have Eugene Tan, who is the program supervisor for Technology Advancement Office, and that is from the South Coast Air District. We have Oliverio Barragan, who is an air quality engineer of the Mobile Sources Division of the Sacramento Metro Air District. Next, we have Tyler Harris, who is the manager of planning, rules, and incentives of Ventura County Air District. And then we have David Frisbee, who is the planning and air monitoring manager of the Monterey Bay Unified Air Districts. So thank you to our incentives panel for joining us. And let me pull up the questions we received from the registration. So let me start with the first question. So question one that we received was, will there be more money for core incentives? And this was received from Chris Benz of Napa Climate Now.
Hi, so I'm AJ Edwards, and I'll be happy to answer this question for everybody. So the landscaping equipment appendage to CORE was due to a 2021 legislative appropriation of $30 million. At this time, these funds have been oversubscribed, and there is no pending legislation or legislations that's moving forward to provide more funding to this special legislative appropriation. Oversubscribed means that we have received voucher requests for about $3 million more than we actually have. So there's a waiting list at this time, in case some purchases fall through, some vouchers fall through, we'll pick up on the waiting list, but the waiting list is about $3 million long. So landscape equipment is not part of the normal CORE voucher system, as CORE incentives are meant to be for heavy duty off-road equipment, such as cargo handlers and forklifts and things like that. And at this time, again, there's no plans to change that. So the short answer is no, not at this time.
Thank you, AJ. Next question is, will there be incentives to buy battery motor equivalent to GX 160 engines? This is from Manny Delgadillo from Pro Spray Equipment.
Hi, this is Josh from the Moyer program. I don't think that there will necessarily be funding directly for battery motor repowers for lawn and garden, but it is potentially a possible project through the off-road chapter for the Moyer guidelines. But it would be something that the implementing district would have to discuss with each applicant. So not directly for lawn and garden.
Thank you, Joshua. I'm going to go to the next question. This question is there help for new entrepreneurs who don't yet have enough income to purchase power tools? And this is from Jaime Pompa Cerrato from Monarch Bay Landscape. And this question we received in Spanish, so we'll have the simulcast Spanish translation as well.
So again, this is Joshua from the Carl Moyer program. If the question is specifically, is there funding to assist in the scrappage of existing gas-powered or diesel-powered equipment, lawn and garden equipment, to then receive an incentive to purchase electric power tools, essentially, then the answer is yes for applicants or residents in districts that are implementing the Carl Moyer Lawn and Garden program. They can scrap and replace their existing internal combustion equipment and potentially receive a voucher or rebate towards electric equipment. So zero emission electric equipment. If the question is more to be providing funding outright for new purchase, I'm not sure. I don't think so necessarily. Potentially not through the Carl Moyer program.
I'm just sending this question to our interpreter. And I see that we got some questions in the Q&A. I'm just going through the registration questions first. Okay, so the next question is, we wanted to ask each Air District panelists to share their windows on the funding opening and closing dates for the lawn and garden programs.
I can start. This is Dave Frisbee with Monterey Bay Air Resources District. We cover an area of 3 counties: Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz. We currently have our program open. As we receive more funds, usually through the Carl Moyer State Reserve, we've been just adding that funding for project funds. It's about 180 to 200,000 every year to both of our residential and our commercial programs. We also will, if funding runs out, we'll try to keep it going by pulling money from our Carl Moyer off-road equipment program. We'll divert it to the lawn and garden program. So for the time being, it looks like we'll just keep going until we lose interest. So that's our intent. We'd certainly have to go back to our board to prove that, but for all intents and purposes, we just want to keep the program going because we think it's important, and we've got a lot of interest from our community.
I can go next. Hello, let me turn on my camera first. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Oliverio. I'm with the Sac Metro Air District. And right now we do have a commercial lawn and garden program open. We opened it on back in May 1st, and we do plan on closing this upcoming Friday. So we are encouraging anyone that is operating in Sacramento County to apply by Friday. Funding is at this point a little bit oversubscribed. So initially we started with $1.5 million for commercial projects, and that was quickly allocated to various projects. So locally we've received a lot of interest in our program. We also do plan to open a residential program either in July or August with an initial allocation of $500,000. We are using a combination of Carl Moyer dollars as well as our local air district funding and potentially even using community air protection funding as well. So there's a bit of flexibility here as we delve more into this program. We just started implementing this program last year, so we're fairly new, but the reception has been pretty great. And we've had good relationships with a couple of vendors and recycling facilities in our area, so we're pretty proud, and we're really excited to see what's next in through this chapter. So feel free to ask me any questions if you have any questions.
I'll go next then. I'm Yujin Tan. I'm from South Coast AQMD. We've started the program about a year or two ago, and the program's just ongoing for us. I mean, similar to Monterey, where we plan on adding more funds to it until, of course, we have to go back to board, of course, for that approval. But I mean, we plan to keep it ongoing until we get other direction or lose interest. And we do have both a commercial as well as a residential program. The commercial is utilizing the Carl Moyer program funds, and our residential program is using mostly our local funds. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me also.
I'll wrap this up. My name is Tyler Harris. I'm with Ventura County Air Pollution Control District. We opened our both residential and commercial lawn and garden exchange program earlier this year. We had dedicated $500,000 each to commercial and residential. The commercial funds remaining is around $100,000, and residential funds remaining are being spent much slower. It's still over $450,000 left. So in discussions with my staff and our management, we're planning on diverting some of the residential funds to the commercial program so that we can keep that open as long as possible. We will, once we do run out of funds completely, then we will take stock of how the program went, see if we need to make any changes, and then go back to our board to reauthorize with whatever changes that we feel are necessary. But we expect the commercial has been very well received and has been burning through the money pretty quickly. So we obviously have a lot of interest, and I believe our board would support continued funding. There may be a gap in between when we run out of funds and when we start back up again, though. I hope that helps.
Thank you. And let me go to the next question. Okay, for this question, we've got okay, so is grant money to ton in gas-powered landscape equipment and mowers? Again, is there grant money to ton in gas-powered landscape equipment and mowers? This is from James Simon of Solano County Grounds.
And so this is Joshua Lowell again from the California Resources Board and Mobile Source Control Division. I think the answer is yes, and you can refer to we'll provide a web page that essentially indicates which air districts in California are implementing a lawn and garden program. And so you can refer to them to understand the details of the individual programs, because the programs may be open or closed. The funding may be different. The funding amounts may vary throughout the state, but this list should help you to navigate to your local air district and find out more about their specific grant offerings.
Thank you. And I'm going to go to the Q&A now. I see the questions in the Q&A and I see a raised hand. So I'm going to go in how I saw them come in. So first question is from James Simon. Is Carl Moyer grants available in Solano County? Trade in gas power equipment for battery handheld equipment.
I will have to refer to the list that I just posted in the chat and double check the district for Solano, as it may not necessarily be one of the air districts. It may be included in one of the multi-county air districts. So I may have to get back to the group on that.
Thank you, Joshua. And then I see two questions, but I think the raised hand came before that. So let me go to Greg Knott, and could you unmute and ask your question, please, Greg?
Yep, thanks, Ash. I'm curious how ARB is going to be using the core data to understand the technology feasibility and or to help educate the landscapers on their needs and the tools. I ask that. I have a couple examples here. I see there are some sole proprietors in the program that have extraordinary amount of coupons and equipment, which is there must be some real need for these, and kind of introduce some questions about the technology feasibility. One sole proprietor had 83 coupons. He's a sole proprietor that had 8 chainsaws, 7 leaf blowers, and 52 batteries. A couple other quick examples. I see a sole proprietor who had 16 hedge trimmers and 38 batteries, and another sole proprietor who had 11 hedge trimmers, 13 chainsaws, and 18 batteries. So I'm curious, again, how CARB's going to use this data and for today's discussion to help understand the technology feasibility for the landscapers and how to move the program forward accordingly.
I guess I can speak to that. So you, I guess kind of from the context of your question there, yes, there are a number of voucher requests that were rather large in their asking, and so you might be asking how are sole proprietors of funding such large numbers of equipment and still being a small business. And we do have some checks that we run through to make sure that the system's not being gamed, and that these are the vouchers are truly going to small businesses. That said, there are small businesses that are really going all in on electric and want to use our core vouchers to do that. And to your main question, how are we going to use the data? That's really an open question to core at this. Like I said earlier, at this moment, we don't have any more funding in the core program for landscape equipment. But I just, as an observation of what we of our experience is that, yes, there is a lot of interest. Let's say there is a lot of interest to use funding like core, and obviously Carl Moyer, especially on the commercial side, on the business side, to pick up this equipment and use it. And it's very it's very valuable equipment according to, you know, all the purchasers. You know, money doesn't lie.
Thank you, AJ. So let me go to the next question. This one is from Daniel Langmaid. And this one's not a question, just a note. It's just a note that the Bay Area Air District is working on opening a commercial lawn and garden program with Moya funds this summer. Well, that's good to know. Thank you, Daniel. Next question. This is from James Simon. Which person is covering Solano County, who is in our air district? I wonder if we can share the air districts and the counties.
So as a follow-on to that, both Oliverio and I have posted in the chat, I believe it's in the chat for everyone, to the Yellow Solano Commercial Lawn and Garden Incentives Program webpage. So you can utilize that, or again, referring back to the previous zero emission landscaping equipment incentives webpage that lists all of the open programs throughout the state of California.
Thank you, Joshua. And Oliverio, thank you. Next question here is from Colin Iwasa. It's an AQMD question. Will additional equipment brands be allowed to participate? If yes, when? Echo Inc. has been waiting to participate.
Yeah, let me jump in on that one. As for South Coast AQMD, we are looking to open up to allow for new manufacturers to participate in our program in September. Do check on our website for our latest like information, and we'll notify everyone, and everyone that all the manufacturers that has shown interest to us. We will also we've added you to an email list, so we will also be emailing you.
Thank you, Eugen. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question. And this one is from Anonymous. We've got, how could a sole proprietor need that large amount of equipment? If it is one person, there is only so much equipment a single person can use in one day. When doing the core program checks and balances, what happens when you find someone who committed fraud? Do they have to reimburse the program? Is their new equipment confiscated?
All right. So being a sole proprietor or a small business doesn't mean that you don't have employees. So typically there's more than one person operating the equipment. Plus, people often buy like two pieces of equipment and 2 batteries for each, so that they can have their uptime for the entire day. And so when we do catch fraud, we try to catch it early and often, you could say. So in our system, we don't automatically give a voucher to everybody who requests it. And so when people request a voucher, we also ask for lots of information about their business or their sole proprietorship. And if we see any red flags, then we ask for further information. And if we determine that that the request isn't on the up and up, so to speak, we just don't issue the vouchers.
Thank you, AJ. And the last question here is, how does the Carl Moyer work for Fairfield and Vallejo? And they're asking for information in the chat.
So I've offered some information in the chat. I believe Bay Area AQMD covers those areas. So I would refer to their information on the incentive programs.
Thank you, Joshua. I'm just looking at the attendees to see if there's any. I think we might actually be over time for this segment. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so the next slide is, so next up, we would like to request your input on future workgroup topics. Please share them with us either through the chat, by speaking with us, or you can email suggestions to us at landscaper@arb.ca.gov. And I'm going to put that in the chat. Thank you, Nicole. And now we have the contacts listed. So we have a few contacts for the programs we discussed. If you have questions for us and didn't get a chance to ask them at the meeting today, you can email us at soar@arb.ca.gov or landscaper@arb.ca.gov. For Carl Moyer questions, that'll be moyerhelp@arb.ca.gov. And for core questions, that'll be core@arb.ca.gov. Thank you, Nicole. So this is just some sorry, let me start here. So the next Landscaper Workgroup meeting will be held tentatively on August 20th, 2025. But I also want to share some upcoming Landscaper events, and they are listed on this slide. Of note, I want to highlight the funding workshop on May 30th, that's this Friday, for CORE. And this is the implementation workgroup meeting fiscal year 2024-25 Clean Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Project, or HVIP, Innovative Small E-Fleet Pilot Program, or ISEF, and Clean Off-Road Equipment Vouchers, or CORE. And let me put some of these programs in the chat. And now we will take questions. And we had a question come in the registration, and let me give that question. We've got, how will California produce and distribute the additional electricity required for electrification? And this is from Dennis Turner of PDQ Equipment. And let's see, Catherine, maybe you can take that one.
Yes, I'll go ahead and answer that. Yeah, so CARB works with our state partner energy agency, the California Energy Commission, and we share information about the SOAR population. And so based on that information sharing, there's a projection that 93% of small off-road equipment will be zero emission in 2035. And that increase on the electrical grid was less than 1% at 0.15 increase. And So with 99% of the small off-road equipment projected to be zero emission in 2043, that increase bumped up a little bit more to 0.18% of the projected statewide consumption. Based on the data from the CEC, the California Energy Commission, and on the small off-road engine emission inventory model, it appears that our grid can support this change. And we do anticipate the increased load for zero emission equipment for small off-road equipment will not be an issue. We will continue to monitor the situation. And then we also wanted to say that it's important that you talk early and often with your electric utilities. And there's information we could provide you if you're interested, contacting that local electric utility, and you can let them know about how you may have the need for increased service at your site, where you'll be plugging in those batteries to recharge your equipment. And then I also wanted to say that CARB coordinates and will continue coordinating with our state energy partners and assessing the electricity need to power our cell phones, computers, electric vehicles, buildings, as well as battery, electric, and garden equipment. So that's an ongoing process that we do. Thanks, Ash.
You're welcome. I'm looking at questions. Let me see. So like for further core questions, they use the core box there. It's core@arb.ca.gov. Let me look to see here.
Hey, Ash, can I jump in here?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm the lead on the core professional landscaping program. And so if there's further questions, people can email me directly about that. My email is Adam, ADAM, .Edwards, EDWARDS, at arb.ca.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. And thank you, Jenna. And we got a question in Q&A, and it looks like it's being, an answer is being typed. And I'm looking at the attendees, and I don't see any more hands. I'll just let that answer finish getting typed. Okay, no more questions in the Q&A, no more hands raised. So if there's no more questions, maybe we'll hand this over to Christopher to close the meeting.
Sure. Thanks, Ash. And thank you, everyone, for attending our meeting today, participating, and for taking the time out of your evenings. We appreciate all the questions and the presentations and all of our guests helping with the meeting. And we hope you have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.